Mrs. Hartwell, you need to sign here. The police officer slid the restraining order across the desk. My hand trembled as I picked up the pen. 72 years old, and I was filing legal papers against my own daughter-in-law, not because she'd stolen from me, not because she'd manipulated my son, but because 3 days ago, she tried to abandon my newborn granddaughter at Willow Creek Community Hospital like she was returning a defective product. My baby granddaughter, 3 days old, left in a hospital bassinet with a note that said, "I don't want her. Find her another home." What kind of monster does that? I thought I knew. But what I discovered, what I was about to uncover about my entire family, would shatter everything I thought I knew about my life. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand how I ended up in that police station, how I ended up fighting for a granddaughter against a woman I'd welcomed into my family, you need to know where this nightmare began. And trust me, you won't believe how blind I was. My name is Beatrice Hartwell, and for 40 years, I lived the quietest kind of life in Willow Creek, Oregon. I was the head librarian at the Willow Creek Public Library on Main Street, the kind of job where you know everyone's reading habits and half the town's secrets. My husband, Theodore, died of a sudden heart attack 7 years ago. One minute we were planning a trip to the Oregon coast for our anniversary. The next, I was a widow at 65, standing in our Laurelhurst home in Portland, surrounded by 43 years of memories and no idea how to move forward. Theodore left me the house, paid off, worth about $650,000, and his life insurance. It wasn't a fortune, but it was comfortable, safe, everything we'd worked for. Our son, Sullivan, was 32 when his father died. He'd always been a good boy, quiet, thoughtful, a software engineer at a startup downtown. He helped me through the grief. He helped me sell the Portland house when the maintenance became too much. He helped me find the cottage on Alder Street in Willow Creek, closer to where he worked. I thought we were close. I thought he loved me. God, I was stupid. 2 years after Theodore died, Sullivan met Sienna Ashford at a tech networking event in Portland. She was beautiful. Sharp cheekbones, designer clothes, that confident smile of someone who'd never been told no in her life. She worked in private wealth management, which I didn't fully understand, but sounded impressive. When Sullivan brought her to Sunday dinner at my cottage, she charmed me completely. "Mrs. Hartwell, these blackberry scones are incredible," she'd said, taking a second one. "Sullivan told me you make everything from scratch. That's so rare these days." She asked about my work at the library. She laughed at my stories. She even helped me wash dishes, insisting I sit down while she and Sullivan cleaned up. "You raised a good man," she'd told me at the door, squeezing my hand. "I can see where he gets his kindness." I went to bed that night, thanking God my son had found someone so lovely. That was my first mistake. 6 months later, Sullivan proposed. Sienna said yes with tears in her eyes, and they set a date for the following spring. The wedding would be at the Ashford family estate in West Lynn. Sienna's mother, Vivienne Ashford, owned a stunning property overlooking the Willamette River. "We want to buy a house before the wedding," Sullivan told me over coffee one Saturday morning. "Start our life properly, you know? But the down payment for anything decent in Portland is brutal. We'd need at least $250,000 to avoid PMI and get a good rate." He didn't ask directly. He didn't have to. "I want to help," I said immediately. "Your father would have wanted you to have a good start." Sullivan's eyes lit up. "Mum, are you sure? That's a lot of money." "I have it," I assured him. I'd gotten $580,000 from selling the Portland house, plus Theodore's life insurance. After buying my cottage for $210,000, I had about $420,000 left. "I'll give you $280,000. Keep the rest for your future, for grandchildren, for emergencies." My son hugged me so tight I couldn't breathe. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you so much. We'll make you proud, I promise." 2 weeks later, I transferred the money. They bought a beautiful craftsman home in Portland's Irvington neighborhood, $640,000. But with my gift, the mortgage was manageable. I didn't think anything of it when Sullivan suggested putting the house solely in Sienna's name. It's just for tax purposes, he'd explained. Her accountant recommended it because of her business income structure. But it's our house, Mum. Both of ours. I signed the gift letter without a second thought. That was my second mistake. But I didn't know that yet. I was too happy planning the wedding, shopping for a mother-of-the-groom dress, imagining future grandchildren running through that beautiful house I'd helped buy. Looking back, all the signs were there. I just didn't want to see them. If I had known what Sienna was planning, what she'd done before, I would have run. I would have grabbed my son and run as far from that woman as possible. But I didn't know. Not yet. What happened next destroyed everything I thought I knew about family, love, and trust. But before I tell you how it all fell apart, I need you to understand something. If you think what Sienna did was evil, hit that subscribe button right now. If you believe grandmothers have a right to protect their grandchildren, smash that like button. Because what I'm about to tell you, it gets so much worse, so much darker than I ever imagined possible. Drop a comment if you've ever given everything to family only to have it used against you. I want to hear your stories, because what I learned is that I'm not alone. There are predators out there who see kindness as weakness, who see love as opportunity, and they're counting on us staying silent. Not anymore. The wedding was everything I couldn't afford to give my son myself, which should have been my first clue. The Ashford estate was magnificent. White columns, manicured gardens, a pavilion overlooking the river with seating for 200 guests, ice sculptures, a 12-piece orchestra, a dessert table that looked like art. I wore my best dress, navy blue, bought on sale at Nordstrom Rack, and felt invisible among the glittering crowd. Women in designer gowns, men in custom suits. Everyone radiated wealth in that effortless way that comes from never having worried about money. Vivienne Ashford held court like a queen. She was in her late 50s, blonde hair swept into an elegant chignon, wearing a cream silk dress that probably cost more than my monthly pension. When she greeted me in the receiving line, her handshake was cold. "Beatrice," she said. "Not Mrs. Hartwell. Just my first name, like I was staff. How lovely that you could make it, to my own son's wedding. The venue is beautiful," I said, trying to be gracious. "Yes, well?" She glanced around with practiced pride. "The Ashford family has hosted events here for 3 generations. We believe in maintaining standards." The way she said standards made my second-hand dress feel like rags. Sullivan and Sienna looked radiant at the altar. My son's eyes were full of love, and Sienna, God, she played her part perfectly. Tears during the vows, a trembling voice saying, "I do," a kiss that looked like a fairy tale. I cried. Happy tears, I thought. I was such a fool. The trouble started 3 months after the wedding, when Sienna called with news. "Beatrice, I'm pregnant!" Her voice bubbled with excitement through the phone. "Can you believe it? You're going to be a grandmother!" I screamed. Actually screamed with joy. My neighbours probably thought I'd won the lottery. "Oh, sweetheart, that's wonderful. Have you told Sullivan? How far along are you?" 8 weeks. We just found out yesterday. Sullivan's thrilled. He's already planning the nursery. We talked for an hour. She wanted my advice about doctors, about morning sickness, about everything. I felt closer to her than I ever had. This was the daughter I'd never had, about to make me a grandmother. For 6 weeks, everything was perfect. Then came the ultrasound appointment. Sullivan called me that evening, his voice flat. "Mum, we need to talk. Is everything okay? Is the baby—" "The baby's fine. It's a girl." The way he said girl made my stomach drop. "That's wonderful. Have you thought about names?" "I always loved the name." "Sienna's upset," he interrupted. "Her family. They really wanted a boy. First grandson, family name, legacy. You know how it is with old families." I didn't know, actually. Theodore and I had been thrilled with Sullivan regardless of gender, but I tried to be understanding. "She'll come around," I said gently. "Once the baby's here, once she holds her—" "I don't know, Mom." His voice cracked. She's talking about she wants to wait. Try again for a boy first. My blood went cold. Wait. Sullivan, she's already pregnant. What does that even mean? Silence. Sullivan? I have to go. Sienna's calling me. He hung up. I sat in my cottage, staring at my phone, a terrible feeling crawling up my spine. Something was very, very wrong. I wanted to call back immediately. I wanted to drive to Portland and shake some sense into my son. But Sienna was his wife, and I didn't want to be that mother-in-law, the interfering one, the difficult one. Tell me in the comments, was I wrong to stay quiet? Should I have confronted them right then? Or would you have done what I did and hoped it was just pregnancy hormones and family pressure that would pass? Because I chose silence, and that choice almost cost my granddaughter her life. The pregnancy continued, but Sienna stopped calling, stopped answering my texts. When I drove to Portland to visit, Sullivan met me at the door. Now's not a good time, Mum. I just want to see how Sienna's feeling. I brought some ginger tea for the morning sickness, and she doesn't want visitors. His face was hard, unfamiliar. She needs space. Space. From the woman who'd given them $280,000. Sullivan, what's going on? Did I do something wrong? No, Mum. You didn't do anything. But he wouldn't meet my eyes. It's just, Sienna's having a hard time with the pregnancy. Her mother thinks too many people around causes stress. Her mother, Vivienne. The woman who'd looked through me at the wedding like I was furniture. Can I at least... I'll call you, okay? When things settle down. The door closed in my face. I drove back to Willow Creek with tears streaming down my face, radio turned off, just the sound of my own breathing and the crushing realization that I was being pushed out. I remembered the night Theodore died. We'd been having dinner, just pasta with marinara, nothing fancy. He'd clutched his chest suddenly, face going pale. "B," he'd gasped. "Something's wrong." The ambulance came within 8 minutes. They worked on him for 45 minutes in our living room. I'd knelt beside him, holding his hand, begging him not to leave me. "Take care of Sullivan," he'd whispered, his last words. "Promise me." "I promise." I'd sobbed. "I promise." He was gone before we reached the hospital. I'd sold our Portland house, the house we'd bought when Sullivan was born, where we'd celebrated birthdays and Christmases and 1,000 ordinary moments. Sold it and gave most of the money to Sullivan because that's what Theodore had wanted. That's what a mother does. She sacrifices, she gives, she loves. And now that same son couldn't look me in the eye, couldn't let me through his door, couldn't even tell me what was happening with my only grandchild. I thought grief was the worst pain I'd ever feel. I was wrong. Theodore had told me once, "Love isn't always enough, B. Sometimes people take advantage of love because they know it makes you vulnerable." I hadn't understood what he meant then. I understood now. They wanted me generous. They got me patient. There's a difference. 3 months passed. 3 months of silence, except for occasional texts from Sullivan. "Baby's fine. Sienna's fine. Talk soon." I sent gifts, baby clothes, a handmade quilt I'd spent weeks sewing, a care package with prenatal vitamins and pregnancy books. Everything was returned to sender. I stopped sleeping, lost weight. My doctor warned me my blood pressure was dangerously high, 160/95, when it had always been perfect. "Mrs. Hartwell, you need to reduce stress," Dr. Whitfield had said at my last appointment. She'd been Willow Creek's pediatrician for 30 years, a kind woman with steel grey hair and knowing eyes. "What's going on?" I'd broken down in her office, told her everything. The money, the house, the pregnancy, the silence. She'd listened quietly, then said something that haunted me. "Beatrice, I've been a doctor for a long time. I've seen families do terrible things to each other. If your instincts are telling you something's wrong, trust them. But what could I do? I had no legal rights. The baby wasn't even born yet. Sullivan was an adult who'd made his choice. I was powerless, or so I thought. The due date came and went. No call, no text. Nothing. I found out my granddaughter was born from a Facebook post. Not a call from my son. Not even a text message. A Facebook post from Vivienne Ashford showing a hospital bassinet with a tiny pink blanket. "Welcome to the world, baby girl," it read. "The Ashford family celebrates a new generation." No name, no photos of the baby's face, no mention of Sullivan or Sienna, just Ashford family. Like my son didn't exist. Like I didn't exist. I drove to Willow Creek Community Hospital that night. It was a 30-minute drive that I did in 20, my hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel, my heart pounding. The maternity ward was quiet. Visiting hours were over, but I knew the night nurse, Claire, who'd worked there for 15 years and loved checking out romance novels from my library. "Claire," I said breathlessly at the nurse's station. "My granddaughter was born today. Sullivan Hartwell's baby. Can you tell me what room?" Claire's face went pale. "Mrs. Hartwell," she said quietly, "you need to sit down." "Why? What's wrong? Is the baby okay?" She glanced around, then lowered her voice. "The baby's healthy, but, Mrs. Hartwell, there's been a situation. Dr. Whitfield asked me to call her if you came. She wants to talk to you." "About what?" "About your daughter-in-law." The way she said it made my blood freeze. Dr. Whitfield arrived within 10 minutes, still in her street clothes, her face grave. "Beatrice," she said, guiding me to a private consultation room. "I need to tell you something about Sienna, something I discovered in her medical history that it changes everything." She pulled up a file on the computer, looked at me with such sadness. "Your daughter-in-law tried to abandon her baby this morning, left her in the nursery with a note saying she didn't want her. Hospital security had to intervene. The room spun. But that's not the worst part," Dr. Whitfield continued, her voice barely a whisper. "Beatrice, she's done this before. Twice before. And what I found in her background, you're not dealing with a troubled mother. You're dealing with something much worse." Dr. Whitfield pulled up medical records on her computer, records that should have been sealed, records that she was risking her career to show me. In 2018, Sienna gave birth to a boy in Sacramento, California, she said quietly. Different last name. Sienna Torres, then. She was married to a man named Marcus Torres, an investment banker. The baby was born healthy. She left the hospital without him and filed papers to terminate her parental rights within a week. My mouth went dry. In 2021, she had a daughter in Seattle, Washington. Unmarried this time. Father listed as unknown. Same pattern. Left the baby at the hospital. Signed away her rights immediately. That baby was adopted through a private agency. 2 babies. 2 abandoned children. How is this possible? How did Sullivan not know? She changed her name both times after. Sienna Torres became Sienna Ashford. The California records were sealed because the father's family paid her $75,000 to relinquish rights quietly. They didn't want publicity. The Washington adoption was private, paid adoption. She received $45,000. My hands started shaking. "Dr. Whitfield, are you telling me my daughter-in-law has been selling babies?" "I'm telling you she has a pattern." "And Beatrice?" She hesitated. "I ran a background check on Vivienne Ashford. She was arrested in 2015 in Nevada for elder fraud. She targeted a 78-year-old widow, convinced her to sign over property, stole $200,000. The charges were dropped because the victim died before trial, but it's in the system." The room tilted. "The Ashford family money? It's not old money. It's not real. It's stolen. From people like you." Everything clicked into place. The rushed engagement. The pressure to put the house in Sienna's name. The way Vivienne had looked at me. Not with snobbery, but with calculation. I wasn't Sullivan's mother to them. I was a mark, a target, a wallet on legs. "Where's my granddaughter now?" I whispered. "In the nursery. She's healthy. 7 pounds, 2 ounces. We've named her Baby Girl Hartwell in the system because Sienna refused to name her. Beatrice, she called her the mistake. Rage hit me like a physical blow. Hot, white rage that burned away fear and doubt and every polite instinct I'd ever had. "I want to see her. I can arrange that. But Beatrice," You need to know. Sienna has already contacted an adoption attorney. She's trying to place the baby privately, for money, over my dead body. Dr. Whitfield's expression softened. That's what I hoped you'd say. Come with me. The nursery was dimly lit, peaceful. 6 bassinets, 5 sleeping babies. 1 baby awake, tiny fists waving in the air. My granddaughter. She was beautiful. Impossibly, heartbreakingly beautiful. Dark hair like Sullivan's, Theodore's nose, my late mother's chin. I picked her up carefully, and she settled immediately against my chest, making small, contented sounds. "Hello, sweetheart," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "I'm your grandma, and I promise you, I swear to you, nobody is going to hurt you. Nobody is going to sell you. Nobody is going to abandon you." Dr. Whitfield stood in the doorway. "What are you going to name her?" I looked down at this tiny, perfect person who'd been called the mistake and it by the woman who'd given birth to her. "Wren," I said firmly. "Her name is Wren Beatrice Hartwell, and she's coming home with me." I'm not proud of how long it took me to see the truth. How many signs I ignored because I wanted to believe in family. How much money I gave without question because I thought that's what love looked like. If you're judging me, I get it. I judged myself too, for months, for being stupid, blind, desperate to be needed. Drop a comment if you've ever ignored red flags because you wanted so badly to believe in someone. If you've ever sacrificed everything only to realize you were being used. Let's stop pretending we're all perfect at spotting manipulation. None of us are. Because the people who hurt us, they're good at what they do. That's why it works. Dr. Whitfield made a phone call that night from her office while I held Wren. "Detective Ridge? This is Lenora Whitfield from Willow Creek Community Hospital. I have a situation that needs Family Crimes Unit attention immediately." Detective Callahan Ridge arrived within an hour. He was in his 40s, built like someone who'd played football in college, with kind eyes that turned steel hard when Dr. Whitfield explained the situation. "Mrs. Hartwell," he said, sitting across from me in the consultation room while Wren slept in my arms. "I've been tracking Sienna Ashford, though I knew her as Sienna Torres, for 3 years. She's part of a larger investigation into illegal private adoptions and elder fraud. She's done this before," I said. "I know." Dr. Whitfield showed me, not just twice, 5 times that we know of, 3 states, different identities. She targets men from wealthy families, gets pregnant, then sells the babies through a network of lawyers and adoption brokers. Charges anywhere from $40,000 to $150,000. I felt sick. But here's the thing, Mrs. Hartwell. We've never been able to make charges stick because the fathers always pay her off to avoid scandal. Every single time, the families want it quiet. They pay, she leaves, and we can't build a case. He leaned forward. "But you're different. You're not trying to hide this. You're trying to protect your grandchild. And that gives us leverage we've never had before. What do you need from me?" "Everything. Bank records showing the money you gave them. The gift letter. Documentation of Sienna's abandonment attempts. Witness statements from hospital staff. And," he hesitated, "Mrs. Hartwell, I need you to file for emergency custody of Wren. Make this a legal fight. Force Sienna to go on record. She has lawyers. Expensive ones. I don't have anything left. I gave them everything. We'll find you a lawyer. There are attorneys who specialize in grandparents' rights and do pro bono work for cases like this." Dr. Whitfield touched my shoulder. "Beatrice, I'll testify. So will every nurse who witnessed what Sienna did. You're not alone in this." I looked down at Wren, this tiny person who'd been born into a conspiracy, who was supposed to be merchandise. "Tell me what to do," I said, "and I'll do it." The next 5 days were a blur of legal paperwork, police interviews, and sleepless nights at the hospital with Wren. Detective Ridge connected me with Theodora Kane, a family law attorney in her 60s who'd built her career defending grandparents' rights. She walked into the hospital conference room like a warrior in a pantsuit. Silver hair, sharp eyes, and a handshake that could crush bones. Mrs. Hartwell, she said briskly, I've reviewed your case. Here's the situation. Oregon grandparents' rights are limited, but there are exceptions for cases involving abuse, neglect, or abandonment. Sienna's documented attempt to abandon Wren at the hospital gives us standing. Can I win? Against Sienna? Yes. Against Sienna and the money behind her? It'll be a fight. She pulled out a file. But Detective Ridge gave me something interesting. Bank records showing deposits into Sienna's account from her previous baby sales. Records showing similar deposits into accounts linked to Vivienne Ashford. This isn't just about Wren. This is about a criminal enterprise. What about Sullivan? The words hurt to say. Is he part of this? Theodora's expression softened. That's what we need to find out. Detective Ridge is investigating his finances. If he's been receiving money from these arrangements, he's complicit. If not, he's either a victim or willfully ignorant. Either way, I thought, my son chose her over his own child. There's a custody hearing in 4 days, Theodora continued. Sienna's attorney, Mitchell Grayson, has filed for immediate return of the child and a restraining order against you for harassment and interference with parental rights. Harassment? I'm trying to save my granddaughter from being sold. I know. And Judge Preston Caldwell will know too once we present evidence. But Beatrice, she looked at me seriously, this is going to be ugly. Sienna's attorney will attack your age, your finances, your mental health. They'll claim you're an overbearing mother-in-law who can't accept her son's marriage. They'll twist everything. Let them try. Theodora smiled. That's what I wanted to hear. Because here's what they don't know. We're not just fighting for custody. We're bringing down their entire operation. I didn't just gather evidence. I gathered an army. I spent those 4 days documenting everything. Every text message Sienna had sent asking for money. Every email about the house purchase. Every bank transfer. Theodora called it building the narrative. Detective Ridge called it building the case. I called it building a wall between my granddaughter and the monsters who wanted to sell her. On the 3rd day, something happened that changed everything. I was in the hospital nursery with Wren when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mrs. Hartwell, a woman's voice, shaking. My name is Catherine Morehouse. I heard about your case. Detective Ridge gave me your number. I hope that's okay. Who are you? I'm the mother of the baby Sienna abandoned in Seattle. The one she sold through private adoption in 2021. My heart stopped. I need to tell you something. Catherine continued. Something Detective Ridge doesn't know yet. I hired a private investigator after I lost my daughter. I needed to understand what happened. And what I found. She took a shaky breath. Sienna's not working alone. Her mother, Vivienne, runs the entire operation. There are lawyers involved, doctors who falsify records, a network across 3 states. They've done this to at least 12 families that I can prove, 12 babies sold. And Mrs. Hartwell, some of those families, the elderly relatives who gave them money, 3 of them are dead now, under suspicious circumstances. The room went cold. What are you saying? I'm saying your daughter-in-law and her mother aren't just con artists. They're dangerous. And if you're threatening their operation, she didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Now I know what some of you are thinking. It's just money. Let the police handle it. Don't put yourself at risk. But tell me this. When does protecting your grandchild become worth any risk? When is enough? Enough. At what point do you decide that some fights are worth fighting, even if you might lose? Drop your answer below, because I need to know I wasn't crazy for what I did next. Because what I did, it put a target on my back. And I knew it. And I did it anyway. Catherine flew to Oregon the next day. She brought a file 3 inches thick. Bank records, email correspondence between Vivienne and adoption attorneys, messages between Sienna and her mother discussing merchandise and clients and fees. Photographs of Vivienne meeting with a man Catherine identified as Burton Thorne, a lawyer who'd been disbarred in California for fraud. but was practicing under a new name in Washington. And there was more. The families who died, Catherine said quietly, spreading out obituaries on the hospital conference table. Elizabeth Morrison, 76, in Sacramento, died in a fall down her stairs 3 months after Sienna's first baby was placed. She'd given Sienna and her then-husband $60,000. Margaret Finley, 81, in Seattle, died of an accidental overdose of her heart medication 2 months after the second adoption. She'd given Sienna $40,000. Harold Price, 79, in Tacoma, died in a house fire 4 months after loaning money to Vivienne for a business investment. You think they were murdered? I whispered. I think they were loose ends, Catherine said. I think they knew too much, or asked too many questions, or threatened to go to police. And I think Vivienne Ashford is capable of anything to protect her operation. Detective Ridge had joined us, his face grave. I've requested FBI involvement. This crosses state lines, involves multiple felonies, and potentially homicide. Agent Shayna Morehouse from the Portland field office is taking lead. How long until they can act? The hearing is in 2 days. They're working around the clock. But he hesitated. Mrs. Hartwell, you need protection. If Vivienne suspects you're about to blow up her entire operation, I'm not hiding, I said firmly, and I'm not backing down. Dr. Whitfield, who'd been sitting quietly, spoke up. Then you don't leave the hospital until the hearing. We'll keep Wren here for observation. Legitimate medical reasons, premature discharge concerns. You stay in the family sleeping room. Detective Ridge assigns someone to watch the door. It wasn't paranoia. It was survival. That night, as I rocked Wren in the dimmed nursery, my phone buzzed. A text from Sullivan. The first message I'd received from my son in 3 months. Mum, please stop. You're going to ruin everything. Sienna made mistakes, but she's my wife. Drop the custody case, and we can work this out as a family. Please. I'm begging you. My hands shook as I read it. Read it again. Looked for some hint that he understood what his wife had done. What she was. There was nothing. Just mistakes and family and please. I typed back. Sullivan, do you know what Sienna did? What she's been doing? Do you know about the other babies? The money? The adoption schemes? The response came fast. I know you've been listening to lies. Sienna explained everything. She had postpartum depression before. She made bad decisions. But this time is different. She wants to be a mother. She just needs time. Time. To sell Wren to the highest bidder. She tried to abandon your daughter in a hospital, I typed. She called her the mistake. She contacted adoption attorneys before she was even born. Sullivan, this isn't postpartum depression. This is criminal. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then, Sienna said you'd try to turn me against her. That you can't stand that I have a life without you. That you're using the baby to control me. Mom, I love you, but you need help. Serious help. The words felt like knives. My own son thought I was the problem. Thought I was delusional, controlling, mentally unstable. They'd gaslit him perfectly. Or a darker thought crept in. He knew exactly what Sienna was. And he didn't care, because he was getting paid too. The Multnomah County Courthouse in Portland is an imposing building. Grey stone, tall columns, the kind of place that makes you feel small. I'd never been inside a courtroom before in my life. Now I was fighting for my granddaughter's life in one. Theodora met me at the entrance. Behind her stood Catherine Morehouse and a woman I didn't recognize. Mid-30s, red hair, determined expression. Beatrice, this is Laura Brennan, Theodora said. She's the mother of Sienna's first abandoned baby, the boy from Sacramento. She's here to testify. 2 mothers who'd lost their babies to Sienna's schemes. 2 mothers who'd found their voices. We weren't alone anymore. Inside, the courtroom was half full. Detective Ridge sat in the back row. Dr. Whitfield in the second row. 3 nurses from the hospital who'd witnessed Sienna's abandonment. And on the other side, Sienna sat at the defense table in a pale pink dress, hair in soft curls, makeup perfect. She looked like a victim. She looked fragile, young, frightened. She looked nothing like the monster I knew she was. Beside her sat Mitchell Grayson, her attorney, 50-something expensive suit, the kind of shark who'd defend anyone for the right price. And behind them, in the front row, sat Vivienne Ashford. Our eyes met across the courtroom. She smiled, cold, calculated, confident. She thought she'd already won. Sullivan was there too, sitting beside his wife, looking miserable and trapped. When I walked in, he glanced at me, then quickly looked away. My son, my baby boy. And I didn't know if he was a victim or a villain. Judge Preston Caldwell entered. A man in his 60s, grey hair, stern expression, reading glasses perched on his nose. "This is an emergency custody hearing," he began. "Mrs. Beatrice Hartwell, petitioning for temporary custody of the minor child, Wren Beatrice Hartwell, currently known in hospital records as Baby Girl Hartwell. Ms. Sienna Ashford, contesting, with counter-petition for a restraining order against Mrs. Hartwell. Mr. Grayson, proceed." Mitchell Grayson stood. "Your Honour, this is a clear case of an overbearing mother-in-law who cannot accept her son's marriage. Mrs. Hartwell has harassed my client throughout her pregnancy, made unwanted visits, sent unwanted gifts, and is now attempting to use a moment of postpartum vulnerability to steal her grandchild." "Steal." He said steal. "My client experienced severe postpartum depression following the birth," Grayson continued smoothly. "She expressed feelings common to many new mothers: doubt, fear, inadequacy. The hospital staff overreacted to a mother's cry for help and called authorities unnecessarily. Mrs. Hartwell has weaponized this medical crisis to pursue a custody claim that has no legal merit." He painted Sienna as a victim, a struggling mother, someone who needed support, not judgment. He was good. Damn, he was good. Mrs. Hartwell is 72 years old, living on a fixed income, with no experience raising an infant in modern times. She has no legal standing for custody, and her actions constitute grandparent entitlement at its worst. We ask that the child be returned to her parents immediately, and that Mrs. Hartwell be prohibited from contact. He sat down, looking satisfied. Theodora stood. "Your Honour, if I may present evidence." She pulled up documents on the courtroom screen. Bank records. Mrs. Hartwell gave her son and his wife $280,000 for a house down payment 3 years ago. This represented her entire life savings from selling her family home. The house was purchased, but placed solely in Mrs. Ashford's name, allegedly for tax purposes. She clicked to the next screen. 6 months ago, that house was refinanced. $150,000 in equity was taken out. None of that money went to mortgage payments or home improvements. Where did it go, Your Honour? Another click. More bank records. It went to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands, registered to a shell corporation called Ashford Legacy Holdings. That corporation is owned by Vivienne Ashford, Ms. Sienna Ashford's mother. Murmurs in the courtroom. Sienna whispered frantically to her lawyer. Furthermore, Theodora continued, Ms. Ashford contacted 2 separate private adoption attorneys before her daughter was born. She inquired about fees for private placement adoption, specifically asking about families willing to pay premium prices for healthy newborns. She clicked again. Email printouts. In this email, dated 2 weeks before the baby's birth, Ms. Ashford writes, "I need this done quickly and quietly. The baby's grandmother is already interfering. How fast can placement happen? And what's the going rate for a healthy infant?" The courtroom erupted. Judge Caldwell banged his gavel. "Order! Mr. Grayson, do you have a response?" Grayson stood, face flushed. "Your Honour, these emails are taken out of context. My client was researching her options during a difficult pregnancy. Many women consider adoption when facing overwhelming circumstances. She tried to leave the baby at the hospital," Theodora interrupted, "with a note, witnessed by 6 members of the hospital staff. Dr. Lenora Whitfield is here to testify. You probably think you know what happened next. You're probably expecting me to drop all the evidence, Watch Sienna crumble and get my granddaughter. But here's the thing. I'd learned from the best. I'd learned from Sienna herself how to plan, how to wait, and how to strike when your enemy thinks they're safe. Drop your prediction in the comments. Let's see if anyone gets close to what actually happened. Because what came next? Not even Sienna's expensive lawyers saw it coming. Dr. Whitfield took the stand. Dignified, professional, unshakable. Dr. Whitfield, Theodora began, please describe what you witnessed on the morning of Wren Hartwell's birth. Ms. Ashford gave birth to a healthy baby girl at 6:47 a.m. Standard delivery, no complications. At approximately 9:15 a.m., nursing staff found the infant alone in the nursery with a handwritten note from Ms. Ashford stating she did not want the child and requesting the hospital find appropriate placement. And what happened when you spoke with Ms. Ashford? She told me she'd made a mistake getting pregnant with a girl, that her family only valued male heirs. She asked about surrender options and how quickly the baby could be removed from the hospital. Did she show any signs of postpartum psychosis or medical crisis? No. She was lucid, coherent, and calculating. This wasn't a cry for help. This was a business transaction she wanted expedited. Grayson cross-examined, trying to paint it as depression, as hormones, as anything but intentional abandonment. Dr. Whitfield didn't budge. Then Catherine Morehouse took the stand. Ms. Morehouse, Theodora said gently, please tell the court about your experience with Sienna Ashford. Catherine's voice shook, but held strong. In 2021, I met a woman named Sienna Torres in Seattle. We became friends. She told me she was pregnant and scared, considering adoption. I was going through infertility treatments, desperate for a child. She offered me a private adoption, said she couldn't keep the baby, but wanted her daughter to go to a good home. What happened? She charged me $45,000, told me it was for medical expenses and lawyer fees. I mortgaged my house, borrowed from family. I thought I was adopting her baby daughter. But 2 days after the birth, she disappeared with the money. The baby was placed with another family through an agency I'd never heard of. I never saw either of them again. Tears streamed down Catherine's face. I later learned she'd taken deposits from 3 other families, promised the same baby to all of us. She collected over $130,000 and placed the baby with whoever paid the most. The courtroom was silent. I lost my house. My marriage ended. I had a breakdown. And for years, I thought I was the only one, that I'd been uniquely stupid. Then Detective Ridge contacted me 2 weeks ago and told me there were others. 12 others. Sienna's face had gone pale. Vivienne sat stone-faced in the gallery. Then Laura Brennan took the stand, the first victim, the mother of the Sacramento baby. Ms. Brennan, Theodora said, how did you meet Sienna Ashford? She was Sienna Torres then, married to Marcus Torres. I was Marcus's elderly aunt. I'd raised him after his parents died. He was like my son. And what happened? Sienna got pregnant with a boy. Marcus was thrilled. But after the baby was born, Sienna left. Just vanished. Left the baby at the hospital and divorce papers on the table. Marcus was devastated. I helped him raise the baby. My grandnephew. Her voice hardened. Then, 6 months later, Sienna returned, with a lawyer. She threatened to fight for custody unless Marcus paid her $75,000 to sign away her parental rights permanently. We paid. We had no choice. We couldn't risk her taking that baby away just to abandon him again somewhere else. Laura looked directly at Sienna. But here's what I didn't tell Marcus. What I never told anyone until now. The day before Sienna left, she came to my house, asked to borrow $60,000 for a business investment. I said no. 2 weeks after I said no, I fell down my stairs. Broke my hip, my arm, 3 ribs. The police said it was an accident. She paused. But I remember someone behind me at the top of those stairs. I remember hands on my back. And when I woke up in the hospital, $60,000 was missing from my home safe. Sienna had a key to my house. She'd made a copy during family dinners. The courtroom exploded. Grayson was on his feet. Your Honor, this is outrageous speculation. Ms. Brennan was never able to prove. It's not speculation, Detective Ridge called from the back of the courtroom. We have proof. Judge Caldwell's gavel came down. Detective Ridge, approach. Ridge walked to the bench, handed Judge Caldwell a folder. Your Honor, we've been investigating Vivienne and Sienna Ashford for 3 years as part of a multi-state fraud operation. This hearing expedited our timeline. We have evidence of 12 fraudulent adoption schemes, $800,000 in stolen money, and connections to 3 suspicious deaths of elderly victims. He turned to face the courtroom. And, as of 1 hour ago, the FBI has issued federal warrants. The courtroom doors opened. FBI agent Shayna Morehouse entered. She walked straight to the defense table. Sienna Ashford, you're under arrest for wire fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, and human trafficking. Sienna screamed. Actually screamed. You can't do this. I have rights. Mitchell, tell them. But Mitchell Grayson was already standing, hands up. Agent Morehouse, I'd like to cooperate. Mr. Grayson, Agent Morehouse said coolly, you're also under arrest. Conspiracy to commit fraud, falsifying adoption documents, and obstruction of justice. 2 more agents entered and handcuffed Grayson. Vivienne Ashford stood abruptly, heading for the exit. Mrs. Vivienne Ashford? Agent Morehouse called. Please remain seated. We have a warrant for you as well. But Vivienne didn't stop. She bolted for the door and ran straight into 2 more agents blocking her exit. The matriarch of the Ashford family, the woman who'd looked down at me like I was nothing, was cuffed and read her rights in front of a courtroom full of witnesses. Justice, I thought. This is what justice looks like. But then Agent Morehouse turned toward Sullivan. My son sat frozen at the defense table, face white as paper. Sullivan Hartwell, she said, and my heart stopped. We need you to come with us for questioning. What? Sullivan's voice cracked. I don't know anything about… Sir, we have bank records showing deposits into your accounts from the adoption schemes. We have emails between you and your mother discussing investments that align with the timing of baby sales. We have documentation of you refinancing the house your mother purchased and routing funds offshore. No. Please, no. Sullivan Hartwell, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud and money laundering. My son, my baby, the child I'd raised, the boy who'd held my hand at his father's funeral, was led out of the courtroom in handcuffs, and he didn't look at me. Not once. Judge Caldwell's voice cut through my shock. Mrs. Hartwell, approach the bench. I walked forward on numb legs. Theodora beside me. Mrs. Hartwell, Judge Caldwell said, and his stern face had softened. I'm granting you temporary emergency custody of Wren Beatrice Hartwell, effective immediately. CPS will conduct home evaluations, but given the circumstances and the criminal charges against both parents, I see no reason why this won't become permanent. He looked at me seriously. That little girl is lucky to have you fighting for her. Take her home, Mrs. Hartwell. Keep her safe, and know that this court supports you completely. As I left the courtroom, holding the papers that gave me custody of my granddaughter, Catherine Morehouse hugged me. You did it, she whispered. You stopped them. Laura Brennan took my hand. Thank you for being brave enough to fight. And all I could think was, they wanted me silent. I got louder. That's the difference between a victim and a survivor. The story made national news. Multi-state baby-selling ring busted. CNN, FBI arrests 3 in adoption. Fraud scheme. The Oregonian grandmother's fight exposes criminal enterprise. Good Morning America. My phone rang constantly. Reporters, talk shows, people wanting my story. I ignored most of them. I had more important things to do, like taking my granddaughter home. Dr. Whitfield discharged Wren with a clean bill of health 2 days after the hearing. I drove her to my cottage in Willow Creek, this tiny 7-pound person in a car seat that looked huge around her. Mrs. Kimura from next door was waiting on my porch with a casserole. Mr. Patterson from down the street had assembled a crib. The library staff had collected baby clothes, diapers, bottles, everything I needed. Welcome home, baby Wren. Mrs. Kimura said, tears in her eyes. Welcome home. My little cottage, the one I'd bought with what was left after giving Sullivan everything, was full of love, full of community, full of people who actually cared. This was family. This was real. You know that moment when the truth finally comes out? When liars get caught and there's nowhere left to hide? When justice actually gets served? That's where I was. And I'm not going to lie. Watching Sienna being led out in handcuffs, watching Vivienne's smug face crumble, watching their entire empire collapse. It felt good. Tell me in the comments. Is that wrong? Am I supposed to feel bad about enjoying their downfall? Because I don't. Not even a little bit. They tried to sell my granddaughter. They stole from 12 families. They possibly killed 3 people. So no, I don't feel guilty. I feel vindicated. The trials took 8 months. Sienna faced federal charges across 3 states. The evidence was overwhelming. The other mothers testified. Bank records, emails, recorded phone calls, everything Detective Ridge and Agent Morehouse had been collecting for years. She was convicted on 17 counts. Sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. 25 years. She'd be 60 years old when she got out. All 12 of her children would be adults, living their lives, hopefully loved and safe in families that wanted them. She'd stolen their childhoods for money. Now she'd lost her own life. Karmic justice, I thought. Perfect karmic justice. Vivienne Ashford got 30 years. The elder fraud charges, the adoption schemes, the financial crimes. They stacked up. Her fancy lawyers couldn't save her. The Ashford estate in West Lynne, mortgaged to the hilt, bought with stolen money, seized by the FBI and sold to pay restitution to victims. Mitchell Grayson was disbarred and sentenced to 12 years for his role in falsifying adoption documents and conspiring with the Ashfords. The entire operation dismantled. Every lawyer, every corrupt doctor, every person who'd helped them, prosecuted. It was beautiful. And Sullivan, my son, his trial was separate, shorter. The evidence against him was clear. He'd received $150,000 from the adoption schemes, deposited into accounts he controlled. He'd helped refinance the house to extract equity. He'd been copied on emails discussing merchandise and clients. But during the trial, something emerged that I hadn't known. Sullivan had been manipulated too. Not innocent. He'd taken the money. He'd stayed silent. But Sienna had targeted him specifically, researched his background, learned about his dead father, his loving but overbearing mother, me, his guilt about not being able to give me grandchildren sooner. She'd played him like a violin. The prosecutor argued he was complicit. The defense argued he was a victim of a sophisticated con artist. The jury found him guilty of money laundering but not conspiracy. 8 years in federal prison. I visited him once, 3 months after sentencing, at the Federal Correctional Facility in Sheridan, Oregon. We sat across from each other in the visiting room, separated by a plexiglass window, speaking through phones. He looked terrible, thin, haunted, aged a decade. "Mom," he said, voice breaking. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't know, I knew something was wrong, but I didn't think I didn't know about the other babies. I swear I didn't know. I wanted to believe him. Part of me did believe him. You chose her over your daughter," I said quietly. "Over me. Over everything your father taught you. I know." Tears streamed down his face. "I know. And I have to live with that. Every day, knowing I failed Ren, failed you, failed Dad's memory." We sat in silence for a long moment. "Does she—" He swallowed hard. "Does Ren know about me? Will you tell her? When she's old enough to understand," I said. "I'll tell her that her father made terrible mistakes, that he was weak when he should have been strong, but also," I paused, choosing words carefully, "that people can be both good and bad, that one set of choices doesn't define your entire life, that he loved her, even if he showed it in the worst possible way. Will you bring her to visit? Someday?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. "Maybe," I said finally, "when she's ready, if she wants to." But Sullivan, you don't get to demand anything. You don't get to expect forgiveness. You earn it through changed behavior, through time, through proving you've learned from this. I understand. And if she decides she never wants to meet you, you accept that. Because you gave up your rights to her the night you let Sienna kick me out, the day you prioritized money over family, the moment you stayed silent while your wife tried to sell your child. He nodded, broken. I stood to leave. Mum? I turned back. Thank you, he whispered, for saving her, for being strong enough to do what I couldn't. If you're angry for me, thank you. Your anger validates mine. And God knows I've had enough people tell me I should forgive and move on. If you think I should show more compassion to Sullivan, I understand. He's still my son. Part of me will always love him. But love doesn't mean accepting abuse. It doesn't mean prioritizing his comfort over Wren's safety. If you're crying right now, me too, some days. This wound is healing, but it still aches, especially when Wren does something that reminds me of Theodore, or when I see fathers playing with their children at the park and wonder what Sullivan could have been. Whatever you're feeling, it's valid. That's all I needed someone to tell me back then. That my feelings mattered, that I mattered. A year after the trials ended, I received a letter from Sienna, prison stationery. Her handwriting, still elegant despite everything. I almost threw it away unopened, almost burned it. But curiosity won. Dear Beatrice, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know something, even if you never respond to this letter. I am not the person I was. Prison has a way of forcing you to face what you've done. The therapy here, mandatory for inmates in my situation, has helped me understand that I've been running from trauma my entire life. My mother raised me in that criminal lifestyle. From age 12, I was helping her run cons. She taught me that people were marks, that family was weakness, that love was just another tool for manipulation. I know that doesn't excuse what I did. Understanding why doesn't erase the harm. I stole from you. I tried to sell your granddaughter. I destroyed families. But I want you to know, I wake up every day thinking about those 12 children, wondering if they're okay, if they're loved, if they'll ever know that their biological mother wasn't a monster. She was a broken person who did monstrous things. Wren is lucky to have you. I know that. I robbed her of a normal family, but you gave her something better. A grandmother who fights, who loves fiercely, who chooses protection over peace. I hope someday, when she's old enough to understand, you'll tell her I'm sorry, that if I could go back and change everything, I would, that the biggest regret of my life is not the prison sentence, it's missing the chance to be her mother. But I lost that right, I know that. Thank you for saving her from me. Sienna? I read it 3 times, cried over it, then put it in a file labeled "For Wren when she's ready." Not because I forgave Sienna, I didn't. Maybe I never would, but because Wren deserved to have all the information someday, to make her own decisions about grace, about redemption, about whether people can truly change. That wasn't my choice to make for her. Forgiveness isn't about them. It's about refusing to let their poison stay in your system. I didn't forgive Sienna, but I released her from taking up space in my heart. There's a difference. Wren is 3 years old now. She has Theodore's eyes, bright, curious, always looking for adventure, my mother's stubborn chin, and this laugh, this incredible, joyful laugh that fills our little cottage and makes every sacrifice worth it. She calls me Mimi, not Grandma, Mimi. And when she wraps her tiny arms around my neck and says, "Love you, Mimi," my 75-year-old heart feels young again. Last Sunday, we hosted brunch. Mrs. Kimura brought her famous miso soup. Mr. Patterson taught Wren how to identify birds. Catherine Morehouse and Laura Brennan flew in from California. They've become dear friends, sisters in survival. We sat in my garden, at my table, in my cottage that I'd bought with the money left over after giving Sullivan everything. And we laughed, told stories, watched Wren chase butterflies through the flowers I'd planted. Dr. Whitfield stopped by with a gift, a children's book about strong grandmothers. For Wren, she said, and for you, because you're the strongest person I know. The other mothers from Sienna's schemes have stayed in touch. We formed a support group, 12 women who lost money, time, and pieces of their hearts to the Ashford operation. Some got their adopted children, some didn't. Some are still healing, but we're healing together, and that matters. Detective Ridge told me something at the sentencing that I'll never forget. Mrs. Hartwell, your courage to fight didn't just save Wren. It saved every future victim. It stopped a machine that had been running for over a decade. One grandmother's love dismantled an empire of cruelty. I cried when he said that. Not sad tears, proud tears. Because I'd done it. I'd actually done it. I'm not going to stand here and tell you what to do if you're in a similar situation. I'm not an expert. I'm just a grandmother who got pushed too far and pushed back. But I will tell you what I learned, for whatever it's worth. I learned that kindness without boundaries is self-destruction, that keeping the peace often means swallowing poison. That family is supposed to be a source of love, not a source of pain. And when it becomes the latter, you have permission to step back. I learned that age doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. It gives you perspective. At 72, I had nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. That made me dangerous to people who counted on my silence. I learned that monsters don't always look like monsters. Sometimes they look like charming daughters-in-law at Sunday dinner. Sometimes they look like successful businesswomen in silk dresses. Sometimes they even look like your own son, standing silently while his wife destroys his mother. But most importantly, I learned this. You can't pour from an empty cup. My mother used to say that, and I never understood it until I had nothing left to give and people were still demanding more. Now I understand. Now I keep my cup full first. And if that makes me selfish, so be it. I'd rather be selfish and whole than generous and destroyed. Some days I'm still angry. I see happy 3-generation families at the park and feel a stab of jealousy. I wonder what it would have been like if Sienna had been real, if Sullivan had been stronger, if Theodore had lived to meet his granddaughter. Other days, I'm at peace, grateful for the lesson even if it came wrapped in pain, grateful that Wren will grow up knowing she's loved, that she matters, that her Mimi fought for her when no one else would. Healing isn't linear. It's messy. It's waking up at 3 a.m. to feed a crying baby when you're 75 and your back hurts and you're exhausted. It's explaining to a 3-year-old why she doesn't have a mommy and daddy like other kids. It's sitting in court-mandated therapy because CPS wants to make sure you're mentally stable enough to raise a child at your age. It's 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. It's crying in the grocery store because you saw a father and son shopping together. It's laughing at dinner parties and meaning it. Both can be true, but it's happening. The healing is happening. And if you're healing too, from whatever hurt you, elder abuse, financial exploitation, family betrayal, divorce, estrangement, I'm proud of you. Keep going. It gets easier? Not easy, but easier. Wren starts preschool next month. She's excited, keeps asking if she'll have friends, if there will be books. She's obsessed with books, my little librarian. If Mimi will pick her up every day. Every single day, I promise her. Rain or shine, Mimi will be there. And I will be. For school pickups, for birthday parties, for scraped knees and broken hearts, and every moment of her childhood. I'm 75. I might not live to see her graduate high school, might not walk her down the aisle, might not meet my great-grandchildren, but I'll give her every day I have, every ounce of love in my aging body, every lesson Theodore and I learned in our 43 years of marriage. She'll know she's wanted. She'll know she's loved. She'll know that sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you fail, but that doesn't mean you're not worth protecting. She'll know her story. When she's old enough, I'll tell her everything. About Sienna, about Sullivan, about the fight it took to keep her, and she'll decide for herself what forgiveness means. what family means, what love means. That's her right, her choice. My job is just to keep her safe until she's strong enough to make those choices. People keep asking me if I regret giving Sullivan that money, if I wish I'd kept it, protected myself, been less trusting. And here's the truth. I don't regret my generosity. I regret wasting it on people who saw love as weakness instead of strength. But I'd do it again, for the right people, for people who deserve it, because the alternative, becoming hard, bitter, suspicious of everyone, that's not living. That's just existing in a prison of your own making. Sienna and Vivienne don't get to take my capacity for love. They don't get that power. So I'll keep loving, keep giving, keep trusting, but with boundaries now, with wisdom, with eyes wide open. Before I go, I need to say this. Names and specific identifying details in this story have been changed to protect everyone's privacy. Mine, Wren's, and yes, even Sienna's and Sullivan's. This story is for reflection and awareness, not judgment or harassment. I'm sharing it because I wish someone had shared a story like this with me 3 years ago, when I was signing that gift letter, when I was ignoring red flags, when I thought being a good mother meant accepting everything without question. If my story helps even one grandmother recognize the signs of elder abuse or adoption fraud, then every painful moment was worth it. If it helps one person find the courage to fight back, to protect themselves, to choose their own well-being over toxic family peace, then the publicity, the judgment, the whispers in my small town were all worth it. So here's my question for you, and I genuinely want to know. If you were in my place, would you have done the same thing? Would you have taken your own son to court? Would you have exposed family secrets publicly? Or would you have chosen a different path? There's no right answer, just honest ones. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me your story if you have one. Tell me about the time you had to choose between family loyalty and self-respect, between peace and justice, between staying silent and speaking up. And if you're going through something similar right now, if you're being manipulated, exploited, or abused by people who claim to love you, please know this. You're not crazy. You're not imagining it. You're not overreacting. And you deserve better. So much better. Get help. Document everything. Talk to someone you trust. And when you're ready, fight back. Because you matter. Your peace matters. Your safety matters. Your life matters. Before you go, one last thing. Hit that subscribe button if you want to hear more real stories like this. Stories about survival, about justice, about ordinary people doing extraordinary things when pushed to their limits. Ring the bell so you don't miss updates. And drop a comment with the word survivor if you've overcome something hard. Abuse, betrayal, loss, illness, whatever tested you and didn't break you. I want to see how many of us there are. I have a feeling it's more than we think. This is our community. These are our stories. And together, we're unbreakable. 3 years ago, I was standing in a police station, filing a restraining order, fighting for a baby I'd only known for 3 days. Today, that baby is a thriving 3-year-old who calls me Mimi and believes the world is full of magic. Was the cost high? Yes. I lost my son. I lost my savings. I lost my naive trust in family, but I gained something infinitely more valuable. I gained myself, my self-respect, my strength, my voice, my granddaughter. And every morning when Wren climbs into my bed at dawn, asking for pancakes and stories, I know I made the right choice. Not the easy choice, the right choice. Someone asked me recently, Beatrice, what do you want people to learn from your story? And I thought about it for a long time. Finally, I said, courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you move forward anyway. Justice doesn't always look like you think it will. Sometimes it's messy and painful and costs you everything. But peace, real peace, comes from knowing you stood up when it mattered. You fought when others would have folded. You chose love over fear. And that's something no one can ever take from you. I sit on my porch now, watching Wren play in the garden, and I think about Theodore, about how he made me promise to take care of Sullivan. I did take care of him. I gave him everything I had, but I took care of someone else too, someone he never got to meet. I took care of his granddaughter. I gave her the childhood he would have wanted for her, the love, the safety, the joy, and somewhere, I think he's proud of me. Not for the fight, not for the courtroom drama or the FBI arrests or the national news coverage, but for choosing love when hate would have been easier, for choosing protection when walking away would have been simpler, for choosing Wren when everyone else had abandoned her. That's what grandmothers do. We fight. We sacrifice. We love fiercely, and we never ever give up on the children who need us. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. Thank you for every kind comment, every share, every person who reached out to say, "Me too. This happened to me too." You're not alone. None of us are alone. Remember, better days are coming. They came for me, and they'll come for you too. Stay strong. Stay safe. Choose yourself. And never let anyone convince you that protecting yourself makes you the villain. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to be destroyed by people who claim to love you. God bless you all. This is Beatrice Hartwell, signing off from Willow Creek, Oregon, where one grandmother's love stopped an empire of cruelty, and where a little girl named Wren is growing up knowing she's loved, protected, and worth fighting for, always.